Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and today we're coming to you from Hatch in downtown Fairhope. And Rick Miller has been nice enough to open his space up to us, and so we appreciate Rick in allowing us to do that. If you want to check out more about Rick and what they do, you can go to hatchfairhope.com. Our guest today is LouAnne Barnhill Harrell, and she is the co-owner of Fairhope Pharmacy. LouAnne, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So now I've got to ask this. You have a degree. Your formal education is in early childhood education.
Yes.
And now you're the co-owner of a pharmacy. So how did that happen? That's quite
that sounds quite
a jump.
Odd. Well, I grew up in the pharmacy because
Okay.
I've been there since I was a toddler, or before that.
Yeah.
My parents said that they kept me in a tote box when I was an infant because they spent so many long hours there. So nobody knows what a tote box is, but that's what the drugs used to come in.
Okay. So your parents then the founders of Fairhope Pharmacy, is that right?
Actually, the pharmacy has been there for over 100 years, but my parents bought it in 1959, 60 years. We just had our 60th year.
Wow, okay. So let me ask you this. Fairhope Pharmacy is a pharmacy, obviously, but it's an institution in this community, and it's different from, it's not a CVS, it's not a Walgreens, it's not a big box pharmacy. What makes Fairhope Pharmacy so unique and special? Because it is special. It's a special institution in Fairhope. What makes it that way?
Yes, well, independent pharmacy is so different than big box chain stores. But our main focus is customer service. Mm-hmm. That is our brand. My father established that many years ago. We try to continue that every day. We go above and beyond to help our patients. Our pharmacists are very gifted in their counseling. We also have delivery, which has expanded over COVID. We now have curbside service, which is wonderful since we have no hope of a drive-through.
Right.
So we're always striving to please our customers and gain new customers.
Right. In the service industry, retail and that kind of thing, customer service is paramount, and you guys obviously are a poster child for good customer service, and I think that's one of the keys to your success. So what about your parents? They bought the pharmacy back in 59. You mentioned that in the show primer we asked you, who has influenced you and as far as where you are today, and you said your parents. And so what did you learn about leadership and just about, business in general from watching them over the years in their business?
Well, I grew up in the pharmacy watching them love people, how to treat customers, growing the business. My father was a mentor to me all my life, and like I said, I didn't realize it until he passed.
Yeah, right.
But they both were very, my mother was more headstrong about keeping the business in the future. Mm-hmm. My dad was very focused on financials, and I can still hear him most days when I'm spending way too much money on advertising. But my mother in the late 80s decided that she would take it upon herself to bring the pharmacy into the 20th century with computerizing everything. Mm-hmm. That sounds like an archaic term, doesn't it? So she went to, I think it was Spartanburg, South Carolina, where QS1 or whoever we went with the very first time. Mm-hmm. I think it was QS1, and learned all about how to do that for the business. And if not for that, like the other independents around, they did not want to do it. Yeah. And so my parents bought most of the files of the independents that were left as they closed their doors. And that's why we're still here today.
Wow. She had a vision, right?
Yes.
She could see that in order to be competitive and to stay, ultimately in business, she would have to, you all would have to adapt to the times and that kind of thing. So sounds like a great team. Your dad kind of concentrating on the numbers and maybe being a little bit more of the brake, and your mom kind of being the gas and wanting to push through and modernize. Sounds like a great team.
They really were.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so leadership. When I say leader or what makes a good leader, what are some of the things that come to your mind?
A leader is a servant every day. Like John Maxwell says, leaders finish last. Leadership is seeing value in people and instilling value in people every single day. I think the most favorite part about leadership to me is people. Mm-hmm. I love people. I want to be around people. That is my most favorite part of the business. The financials are not so much, but that's something I have to learn to do. And
one of those necessary
things. Mm-hmm. I try to read a lot, and one of my mentors is John Maxwell, and he has a little saying every day he does an email, and it's very good. It gives me focus and helps me get through the day. And a lot of it I post on our little board in the break room. I don't know how many people see it, but and also, keeping 21 people. We have our little fires here and there, but for the most part, it's many people that work there. I think everyone gets along. They know what they're supposed to be doing, and everybody, it's a good team.
Yeah. So what makes a good team member for Fairhope Pharmacy? I mean, if you're looking at person A and person B for a position, what makes one person stand out over the other? As far as, I'm not talking about technical skills, I'm talking more about qualities and characteristics and those intangibles that you're looking for a good team member. You've
got to have some social experience. And actually, I think every young person should work retail for that one reason. It's just learn how to deal with people and customers and the varying aspects of people's personalities. There's an interesting, probably learned it in Rick's class, but you only focus on your employees' best attributes. Don't put somebody that can't deal with customers on the floor.
Yeah, right.
I've learned my mistake that way. You put them in the stockroom. If they have organizational skills out the wazoo, they can help you there. Just focus on their best values. And I can tell by talking to someone immediately if they would be able to cope with the situation and being around people all the time. But it's a great learning experience, like I said, for young people. And we've had a lot of young people come through there, and some have gone on to bigger and better, and some are business people around here today.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you're right. I mean, and as a matter of fact, Riley, who was with us and was on last episode, made the same point. I mean, retail teaches you a lot about how to interact with people and obviously customer service and that kind of thing. So the old idiom is out there, the customer's always right. Is the customer always right? Being so customer focused, I mean, I'm just curious what your take is there. You
want to make the customer think they're right. And you will go above and beyond to make it right. Now, if it's something just completely outlandish, and we've had that, but most of the time, in order to save that relationship, I will acquiesce to that customer's needs to just keep them as a customer, not give away $100, but But usually, I want the customer to feel like they're right because I want them back.
Right, and I think I know what the overriding point is, but really it's how you handle the situation, right?
Exactly.
So you don't have to have an adversarial type communication or interaction, even if the customer may not, quote, be right. There's a way to handle it correctly and that kind of thing. That's really what you're saying.
You can come to a conclusion for both parties.
Yeah, very good. You kind of mentioned the C word, COVID, a few minutes ago. So talk about leading the organization during this just unprecedented time as far as quarantine and, gosh, retail was shut down for a little while and whatnot. So what have you guys, number one, how did you handle it? How did you as the owner and the person that people were looking to kind of guide them through this whole crazy, storm that we were in? How did you deal with that? And then what are some of the things that you've done to make Fairhope Pharmacy kind of come out strong on the other side?
First of all, let me say we've been very blessed through the whole ordeal. When we shut down and when we opened back up, we decided to close all of our retail, which was the Christmas shop and the gift, and have one door. I had a vision one day, thank you, Jesus, to put in a storm door on the side of the Section Street side. And so we could see our customers that way and let one at a time. We did one at a time. We had the curb service after the city put in the 2 parking spaces. And but of course, there was no one downtown, so there's plenty of parking. That was not an issue. Yeah. And we upped our delivery because a lot of people did choose delivery because they didn't want to come to town. But mainly, I saw so much fear and just crazy panic because people want their drugs and were afraid they weren't going to be able to get them. And there was just an overall panic with a lot of customers. And I knew immediately I wasn't going to get on that train. So, but the people I kept at the store, now my elderly I sent home because they were the age that I just didn't think it was safe for them to be there. So my team stuck with me, and the pharmacist never wavered, and nobody ever wavered. We've been blessed to not have the illness there. But mainly it was just trying to keep the customers calm, I think, in that environment. And then when things opened back up, we gradually kind of did it in phases over the period of a week or so. And we kept the pharmacy separate. Then we opened up the gift shop, and then eventually we opened up the Christmas shop, and still has some limited hours there, and we'll get better closer to Christmas. But Fairhope's been very fortunate with all the tourists coming in here because it kind of appeared that we didn't have the virus down here.
Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of settled into the new normal, at least what it's going to look like for the foreseeable future until this thing gets under control, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Sooner rather than later. Have you always considered yourself a leader? Or is that something that has kind of evolved? I mean, the day that you bought your mom and dad out, but became the owner, I mean, did the switch turn on that, hey, I'm the leader now, or was that kind of in your
I was always
process?
one of those that was a better Indian than a chief. I did not want to be a chief.
Okay.
I love being an Indian. I can work really hard for you being an Indian. And I had been in and out of the store all my life, and I still, when I was living in Texas, I commuted and I did more of the decorative end of things. And Daddy was always trying to get the business end into me, but I just didn't want to listen to that right now. So in January of 17, I came down here permanently, and Daddy passed 6 months later. So I had been there long enough for everyone to be used to me being there every day. So it wasn't a huge, thing that fell in my lap. When I acquired that, and I have wonderful people around me that help me, accountants,
Right.
bookkeepers.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it by myself. So now I'm a leader, and I have to think like a leader and read things like a leader. But it's okay. It's evolved. I'm enjoying it, and I find the challenge exciting. And people like Rick and John Maxwell make it, keep me going.
Well, so you mentioned John Maxwell, obviously servant leadership, and Rick Miller is. You mentioned his name a couple of times. We asked who is the leader that you admire, and you named both of those guys. So, what about Rick Miller resonates with you? I mean, what has he done for you?
Rick was my teacher and is the teacher through the Emerging Leaders Program, which is sponsored by the SBA every year and done in the Mobile Chamber. And he worked very, very hard to get that program here, and has worked very, very hard to keep that program here. But it's a wonderful program for leaders. It starts around April, in normal times, it started around April and ended in October.
Okay.
And he brought in speakers and people that were influential in the community and business leaders. And then we had a program every week, and we had to, study every week. And it was financials. It was a lot of financials, and that was what I needed. So that was my main focus. But also we set goals throughout the year, and some of those goals I have attained, and some of them I'm still working on. So Rick I just cannot explain the kind of energy the man has. And even though I graduated from the class, I can call him, email him, run down here, he's a block away, and get his opinion or his advice or his help on anything, anytime.
Yeah, Rick's a good guy. We had him on, I think he was one of our almost very first episodes, our guest, I guess, maybe episode number 5. So yeah, Rick's a great guy, been a friend of ours and a friend of the firm for a long time, and so we appreciate Rick. And of course, he, we're in Hatch now, which is
his deal.
His deal in Fairhope, and so he's been kind enough to let us record here for, several weeks now while we're trying to get into our studio once COVID kind of lets up and we can get on campus at Coastal. But yeah, Rick's a great guy, so great mentor to have for sure. Let me ask you this. I thought this was great, but we asked you if there was a specific aspect of leadership or personal achievement that you wanted to focus on. You said that you wanted to be remembered as a good leader who was firm but compassionate to those around you. I thought that was great because sometimes people think that those two are mutually exclusive, but they're not, I don't think. So talk a little bit about that and what your thought process was in answering that question.
Well, in order to lead 21 people, you have to be firm with the everyday, and if someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you do have to talk to them about it. Or if somebody needs to be moved into another position, you do have to do that, and you have to have the firmness to be able to do that. But yet on the other side, I saw my father as such a compassionate person and a compassionate leader. And it was, at the end of the day, it was all about the people. And we had wonderful people that worked in that store since I can remember. And somehow they all seemed to get along. Some of them wanted to, take the horse's reins, and you just let them because, that back counter is their domain, and you just don't mess with them. But I don't want to be remembered as somebody that, was a tyrant. That is not me, and that's just not my personality anyway. I'm pretty low-key. But it's an interesting balance of firmness and compassion.
It is, and I do think that some people think if I have to have a hard conversation with you, they don't do it because they want to come off as looking as mean or cruel or whatever. But I mean, you can have those, what is called crucial conversation. There's actually a book called Crucial Conversations. You can have those conversations and still at the end of the day be compassionate and value your team member and tell people what they need to hear and do it in a way that's not confrontational and mean and that kind of thing. So I think that's a great point.
At the end of the day, it's about your business too. And you've got to do what's best for the business.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, that's absolutely true. And I think most good team members will realize that, and it all goes back to the relationship too. If you have the relationship and trust between a leader and person being led or an owner and employee, then you can have those conversations and still at the end of the day come out okay on the other side. So, all right, I've asked this question the last couple episodes, and I'm going to ask you, during quarantine and because of this COVID-19 crisis, we've been forced, for better or worse, to cut things out of our lives, right? I mean, for several weeks it was indoor dining, couldn't eat in the restaurant, whatever. So what were you forced to kind of cut out of your life that you're not going to bring back after COVID?
Hours.
Oh, that's good.
We started closing at 5 o'clock and we can't go back.
Oh, did you? So what were the hours before?
The hours we had 8:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
Every day, Monday through Saturday. And I had employees encouraging me to try to close earlier on Saturdays because it kind of died on late Saturday afternoons. And the pharmacy is not nearly as busy on Saturdays, the pharmacy part. But I balked, I was like, what would Daddy think? So finally, when COVID hit and we shut down everything and everybody else shut down everything, there was nobody downtown. Yeah. So we were about it except for a couple of restaurants that hung on. And so we started closing at 5. So I've discovered there's life after 5 o'clock. So that would be really hard to go back. And I said, that's trivial, but that's probably the biggest thing we cut that has affected our customers.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So on the flip side, what have you started doing? A hobby or something that maybe you picked up you didn't have time for? I mean, what have you added to your life that you didn't have pre-COVID that you're going to keep post-COVID?
My personal life, I haven't added anything because I worked the whole time. I mean, most people went home, cleaned house, got creative, cleaned out closets. Okay. I went home and collapsed on Sunday because it was the only day off. But that's just been the difference between me and most of the people I know, friends of mine that have had all this free time on their hands. We're moving forward with our online shopping. I'm getting that. That was what I was going to do, first of all, when this thing hit. And I was very regretful that I didn't have it intact already. But then I didn't have enough manpower, so we decided to paint instead. Gotcha. It's coming. And I'm going to get there because this can't happen again without having access to online shopping. Okay, that's a lesson learned, right? I mean, you'll be as far as the technology side, then you want to have a bigger online presence. Right.
Then, yeah. Okay.
I think that happened to a lot of people downtown.
Yeah. So, what have you learned about LouAnne through this process? What that you maybe didn't know, or maybe has been reinforced as far as your own personal self?
I've learned that with great help from my employees, I will give them a lot of credit that we can get through just about anything together. I pretty much knew that, but I wasn't quite sure who was going to hang with me, because everybody was scared. They decided that they would stick it out, and I'm very grateful to them. I feel better about my team as a whole through this whole, and we converse together, and we've had some issues, and we talk it out, and I'm not one of those with an iron hand that's going to say, okay, this is the way we're going to do it, and we're all going to get tested. But I find if I listen to my team, they can tell me pretty much what they want. Some days I'm going, am I a good leader? Am I a bad leader? I'm an indecisive leader. But looking back, and there were a couple of days I crawled in the closet and just cried my eyes out. Well,
but I think that's the reality of leadership, though, right? You don't always feel good about yourself or even the decisions you make, right? I mean, if you're being honest with yourself.
Yeah. And this particular thing changed every day. The rules changed every day. Every single thing about it changed every day, and nobody knew anything. Yeah. And so we were a lot of times the blind leading the blind, as in the uppers of the nation, the blind leading the blind, for many, many weeks at a time. And I think the constant change and not knowing is what kind of wore people out. Yeah. So, again, I'm very thankful to my team for not wearing out on me. Yeah.
Well, and crisis can either do one or two things. It can make a team gel and be cohesive, or it can totally blow it apart. Right. And it sounds like yours came together at the right time. So,
crisis brings out who you really are.
Yeah, no doubt. Very good. All right, let's do some fun stuff now. Let's do a little this or that with LouAnne now. Dog or cat?
Dog.
All right. Toast or eggs?
Eggs.
Facebook or Twitter, or either?
Facebook.
Okay.
Don't Twitter.
While you're walking, music or podcasts?
While I'm walking, I don't listen to anything, but I'd say music.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Big party or small gathering?
Now small gathering.
Football or basketball?
Football.
All right. Work hard or play hard?
I like a balance of both.
Nothing wrong with that. Hamburger or taco?
That's a hard choice. Taco.
Online shopping or shopping in a store?
Still shopping in a store.
I hear you. Car or truck?
SUV.
Pancake or waffle?
Waffle.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Meat or vegetables?
Meat.
Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Both, but hot coffee.
TV or a book?
TV.
Ocean or mountains?
Ocean.
City or country?
Probably city.
Okay. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Christmas or Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving.
All right. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Dine in or delivery?
Dine in if we can.
All right. TV shows or movies?
TV shows. I've gotten into Netflix now.
There you go. All right. Sweater or t-shirt?
Right now I want to wear a sweater because I want it to be cold. But T-shirt most of the time, probably.
Very good, very good. Well, LouAnne, thanks a lot. This has been great. Appreciate what you guys do. Full disclosure, your Fairhope Pharmacy is a client of Aviso Group, and so we appreciate our relationship with you, and you guys are great. So thanks for joining us. If folks want to find out more about what you guys do, they can go to fairhopepharmacy.com, and we'll also link your personal Facebook and the business Facebook in the show notes. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.